Alrighty, so I'm returning to George Carlin. I have only seen or done a reaction to one of his videos, and that was the video about things, little things we have in common. It was very fast paced, just, typical George Carlin, pretty funny and pretty true. So I decided I was ready to return to him. It's been a good while. This is his bit called Expressions and Sayings. I think I have seen a meme about, oops, all right, Scooter. I think I've seen a meme with a quote from this bit circulating around on YouTube. I might be wrong. It might have just been something he said elsewhere, but I'm curious to find out if this is where it came from. Just because the only reason I think it was from this is because the quote is basically talking about a euphemism for what this word, like this word is a euphemism for this. So if it happens, if it shows up on here, I'll point out that that's the one I heard, if I remember to point it out. Sometimes I forget. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Now this next thing is about the English language. It's about little expressions we use. We all say them, the little sayings and expressions that we use all the time, most of us, and we never really seem to examine these expressions very carefully at all. We just sort of say these things as if they really made sense.
Okay.
Like, legally drunk. Well, if it's legal, what's the fucking problem? Hey, leave my friend alone, officer. He's legally drunk. You know you can stick it. Well, why do we always assume everyone knows where they can stick it? Suppose you don't know. Suppose you're a new guy.
Right.
You have absolutely no idea where to stick it. I think there ought to be a government booklet entitled Where to Stick It. Now that I think of it, I believe there is a government booklet like that.
Yeah,
they sent it to you on April 15th.
Oh my gosh. That's so true.
Undisputed heavyweight champion. Well, if it's undisputed, what's all the fighting about? It's the quiet ones you gotta watch. You know that one, huh? Every time you see a story about a serial killer on TV, what do? They bring on the neighbor. And the neighbor says, well, he was always very quiet. And someone in the room says, it's the quiet ones you gotta watch. This sounds to me like a very dangerous assumption. I will bet you anything that while you're watching a quiet one, a noisy one will fucking kill you. Suppose you're in a bar and one guy's sitting over on the side reading a book, not bothering anybody. Another guy standing up at the front with a machete, banging it on the bar, saying, I'll kill the next motherfucker who comes in here. Who are you gonna watch? You're goddamn right. Lock him up and throw away the key. This is really stupid. Where are you gonna throw the key? Right out in front of the jail? His friends will find it. How far can you throw a key? 50, 60 feet the most. Even if you lay it flat on its side like that and you scale it, what do you get? An extra 10 feet, tops. This is a stupid idea, needs to be completely rethought. Down the tubes. Hear that one a lot. People say, the country is going down the tubes. What tubes? Have you seen any tubes? Where are these tubes?
I mean, he's really thought about this, hasn't he? I mean, he's really examined these idioms. I know, that's the thing about idioms. A lot of times, they don't make sense. It is funny, and that's one of the difficult things about learning another language is the idioms. Because you want to literally translate them, but most of them, they don't literally translate. Or if you can literally translate them, but they make no sense at all. So it's just, and it's interesting how that happens. I find the history of things like that pretty fascinating, but he has really taken the time to dig deep on this and just analyze it in depth. I don't think many people do that. I mean, they realize how crazy idioms can be, but this is his whole this is his whole, this is the whole point of what he's doing here. It's part of his little bit here, but it's funny because it just highlights things like this that are ridiculous that most people don't stop to think about to this length. But when you hear it pointed out, it just underscores the ridiculousness of it.
And where do they go? And how come there's more than one tube? It would seem to me, one country, one tube. What, does every state all of a sudden have to have its own tube now? One tube is all you need.
I love his mannerism.
What, a tube that big? Somebody would have seen it by now. Somebody would have said, hey, Joey, look at the fucking tube. Big ass fucking tube over here. You never hear that. You know why? No tubes.
Okay, this is totally unrelated. This is totally unrelated to what he's talking about. But I'm looking at his body posture here, and he's got his shoulders are all humped up on his neck. And it's funny because it looks like it would really give him a neck ache. I've been watching these chiropractic neck cracking and oh my gosh, back popping videos because I have my neck is always bothering me, and I used to go see a chiro, but I haven't in like 12 years because I've been doing yoga and that helps a lot. But still, I just have constant, it's just chronic issues. And so it's been really cool to watch these neck popping videos, and I'm living vicariously through the people that are getting their neck popped. But watching this right after I've seen some chiro videos, which I was just watching right before I started filming, and I just want to tell him to relax his shoulders some. This is, like I said, this is completely off topic, but that's what I'm thinking about when I see his shoulders like that. And I figured if I don't mention, I'll forget. Okay, back to George Carlin.
We don't have tube one. We are essentially tubeless.
His face.
Takes the cake. You know, say, boy, he really takes the cake. Where? Where do you take a cake? To the movies?
Yeah.
You know where I would take a cake? Down to the bakery to see the other cakes. And how come he takes the cake? How come he don't take the pie? Pie is easier to carry than the cake. Easy as pie. Hey, wait. Cake is not too hard to carry either. Piece of cake. The greatest thing since sliced bread. So this is it, huh, folks? Couple of 100,000 years. The fucking pyramids, for Christ's sakes. Panama Canal, the Great Wall of China. Even a lava lamp. To me, is greater than sliced bread. What's so great about sliced bread? You got a knife, you got a loaf of bread, slice the fucking thing!
So crotchety looking.
And get on with your life. Out walking the streets. You know, guy gets a parole. They say, now instead of being in prison, this guy is out walking the streets. How do we know? Maybe the guy's home banging the babysitter. Not everybody gets a parole is out walking the fucking streets. A lot of times they steal a car, you know. And we ought to be glad. Thank God he stole a car. At least he's not out walking the streets. Fine and dandy. Yeah. That's an old-fashioned one, isn't it? Yeah. Say to a guy, how are you? He says, fine and dandy. Not me. I never say that. You know how come? Because I'm never both of those things at the same time. Sometimes I'm fine, not dandy. Close to dandy, approaching dandy, in the vicinity of dandyhood. Not quite fully dandy. Other times, I am indeed highly dandy. However, not fine. One time, 1965, August, for about an hour. I was both fine and dandy at the same time. But nobody asked me how I was. And I could have told him. I could have told. I could have said to the person, fine and dandy. I consider it a lost opportunity.
Poor guy.
Walking papers. You know, guy gets fired. You say, geez, poor guy. Well, they give him his walking papers today.
Okay, that's something else.
Did you ever get any walking papers?
I have not heard, I don't think I've heard that idiom. What I have heard is pink slip, which means getting fired. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. If I have heard it before, it's not anything that stuck itself in my brain.
Seriously? Believe me, in my life, I got fired a lot of times. You can tell. Never got any walking papers. Never got a pink slip either. You know what I would get? A guy would come around to my desk and say, get the fuck out of here!
Honestly, I can't imagine George Carlin in any other job than being a stand-up comic. Can you just picture him working in an office? I can't. He just seems like too much of a free spirit for that.
You don't need paper for that. It's like the Riot Act. The Riot Act. They keep telling you they're going to read that to you. Have you heard this thing at all? Especially when you're a kid, they threaten you. You wait till your father comes home, he's going to read you the Riot Act. Tell him I already read it myself. And I didn't like it either. I consider it wordy and poorly thought out. He wants to read me something. How about the Gentleman's Guide to the Golden Age of Blowjobs? More than happy. I bet you say that sometimes, don't you? Once in a while, you say to somebody, oh, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yes.
How can you be more than happy?
Right. What's more than
To
happy?
me, this sounds like a dangerous mental condition. We had to put Dave in the mental home. He was more than happy. One more of these. In your own words. People say that to you. You know when you hear that a lot in a classroom or in a courtroom, they'll say to you, tell us in your own words.
Yeah.
Do you have your own words? Hey, I'm using the ones everybody else has been using. Next time they tell you to say something in your own words, say, Nick Flut Blarney Quando Flu.
Okay, I think that's it. So honestly, as far as that last one, in your own words, I never thought about it that way. I always took it to mean what everybody takes it to mean for the most part. In your own words means just say it in your own way of saying it instead of, saying it exactly how somebody else said it. Basically, paraphrase or don't quote verbatim what somebody else said. Say it in your own words. Paraphrase. That is basically that's the way I take that expression, which that's what it means. But I never stopped to think about the way he was meaning, which was literally in your own words, make up your own words. In other words, words that aren't even words that we use at all, words that don't even exist. But that's funny. And of course he would think about it that way, wouldn't he? Because that's the way his mind works or worked. Anyway, there's another George Carlin video. Well, it's not really a George Carlin video. It's a video that was recommended to me. I think it's the one about Louis C.K. and his tribute at George Carlin's funeral or memorial or something like that. And I've been meaning to watch that, but excuse me, you guys. But I haven't gotten around to it yet. But anyway, George Carlin, I mean, what more can you say? I can't think of anything else to say because I already stopped it and said everything that occurred to me as I was watching it. He's a funny guy, and a lot of his humor is not just he's super snarky, but it's not just that. It's also his facial expressions and the way he acts out what he's saying. I mentioned this in the first video that I watched of his. That's just really it's really funny the way he carries himself, everything about his presentation. Like I just want to laugh. I mean, I want to laugh just looking at him. And he didn't even have to say anything. He can just put on one of those faces, and I feel like I know what's going on in his head. Maybe I probably really don't, but you know what I mean. I can just imagine what's going on in his head. So he was quite a character, that guy. It too bad he's gone. Can you imagine the stuff he would say about all the crap going on today? Ho ho, I would love to hear it. Would love to hear it. All right, you guys. Well, I got nothing else to share about this, so I'm going to move on to something else. Don't know what. Maybe a short horror film, because, it's October after all. All righty. Adios.